Jews and Persians? What do they have in common? Aside from both being used as derogatory terms by some to refer to people from the Middle East, not much at first glance. They're separated by religion, culture, and above all else, politics. For most of modern history, their relationship has been defined by animosity and even outright hostility. But did it have to be this way? Well, no, not really. In fact, for centuries, Jews and Persians lived together relatively peacefully, even forming genuine alliances. So what went wrong? It's me and you're watching this channel. Join me as we explore the surprisingly complex history of Jews and Persians. Before we get started, a quick content warning. This video discusses themes of religious persecution and violence against Jewish people. Viewer discretion is advised. Our story begins in the 6th century BC with the last independent Jewish king, a monarch named Cyrus the Great. To understand why he's so important, let's take a look at this map. This was the world in 539 BC when Cyrus conquered the Babylonian Empire, and with it, the Jews' freedom from exile. You see, about 100 years earlier, the Babylonians had seized Jerusalem, burning down its temple and deporting many of its people to Babylon. And just like that, the kingdom of Judah was no more. Now the ancient Persians weren't keen on ruling over people who hated their guts, and as such, they allowed the Jews to return to their homeland and rebuild their temple. More than that, though, Cyrus is actually mentioned in the Hebrew Bible as a Messiah, a liberator of the Jewish people. Now this may seem a bit odd given that he was technically an idol worshiper who ruled over a pantheon of gods. But according to the Bible, Cyrus is called by God by name and is said to have been guided by divine providence to liberate the Jews. In fact, the word Messiah actually comes from the ancient Persian word Mashiach, meaning anointed. Cyrus's favorable reception among Jews was likely due to his reputation as a liberator. Having freed many subject peoples from the harsh rule of the Babylonians, for the next 2 centuries, the Jews enjoyed relative peace and prosperity, living as a freely practicing religious minority within the tolerant Persian Empire. However, things would soon change dramatically. After Alexander the Great conquered the Persian Empire in 333 BC, the region would come under the control of a new power, the Sassanids. Unlike their Achaemenid predecessors, the Sassanians were staunchly anti-Jewish, largely due to the influence of Zoroastrianism, an Iranian religion that heavily influenced later forms of Islam. Its creation narrative identifies the Jewish figure of Ahriman as the personification of evil, a liar and deceiver who corrupts human nature and is destined for ultimate destruction. As such, Jews were viewed as heretics, and their very presence was seen as a threat to the purity of Iranian culture. Persia's Jewish population faced severe restrictions on their freedom of movement and were prohibited from assembling in groups of more than 5. Though the extent of these policies varied over time and depended on the ruler's personal views, there were also cases of outright pogroms against Jews, including the forced conversion of entire communities. Still, despite these setbacks, there were many times when Jews and Persians lived side by side without incident. And it wasn't uncommon for them to serve in the military alongside one another. There are even records of Jews being granted noble titles and positions of power, such as that of Joseph ben Jacob, who served as a general under King Shapur I in the 3rd century. Yet relations between the two groups were never simple, and the situation remained precarious. For example, while the Sassanids generally disliked Jews, they also had a vested interest in maintaining friendly relations with the one state that recognized their authority, Rome. Since the Roman Empire was predominantly pagan, it needed to court the powerful Jewish kingdom of Judah to act as a buffer against the rising power of the Byzantine Empire. By the 7th century, the Middle East was a very different place. The Sasanian Empire had been supplanted by the Rashidun Caliphate, and the land of Persia was now known as Iran. At this point, the majority of Iran's Jewish population had converted to Islam or emigrated to other regions, such as Mesopotamia and Central Asia. Still, there were a few isolated pockets of Jewish communities throughout Iran, such as in the city of Isfahan. These native Persian Jews, or Farsi Jews, developed a unique tradition that continues to this day. However, their golden age came to an end in 1979 with the Islamic Revolution. which saw the country come under the rule of a new government hostile to Jews and other religious minorities. Many fled the country, leaving behind a centuries-old tradition and heritage. Today, there are only about 25,000 Jews left in Iran, most of whom live in Tehran. The modern history of Jews and Persians has largely been defined by the establishment of the state, Israel, in 1948. While some Iranian leaders initially expressed support for the Zionist cause, this soon changed following the Arab-Israeli War of 1948, after which Iran severed diplomatic relations with Israel. This was largely due to the influence of the newly founded and extremely anti-Zionist State of Israel. During the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s, the two sides fought a proxy war in Lebanon as well. But despite their often fraught political history, the two nations do share one thing in common: a deep well of cultural and historical memory that stretches back almost 3,000 years. Cyrus's tomb has become a sacred site for Jews around the world, and his legacy as a liberator is a powerful symbol of hope. Perhaps one day soon, Jews and Persians can look back at their history with the same fondness. Now you know. Hit like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.